Hello and welcome to the MAC weather page for this Wednesday, November 18th. And we're going to have the winter weather forecast outlook. We were going to do that this afternoon. I'm going to try to do it with the video today, so it might not be as smooth as I'd hoped. But first of all, if we take a look at the current conditions this morning, we got very warm temperatures for this time of year in the 50s to the low 60s. And we're running so far through 18 days November over 11 degrees per day above normal. So very, very warm month so far. And over the next 6 days, starting Thursday night, but especially as we get into the weekend, we're going to really karate chop at that number. I think we'll still end up above normal for the month of November, but certainly some big changes under the way, including some possible accumulating snow. We're watching a potential snowstorm from Friday night into Saturday night. And again, we'll follow that very closely as we're now getting close enough that we need to really start paying attention. But certainly many areas of MAC could see at least 2 inches of snow. And it looks like there'll be a band someplace, I think, between Harrison and down towards St. John. Someplace in that area, we could see an area of picking up 6 or more inches of snow. And don't be surprised here either tomorrow night, but more likely Friday or Friday afternoon, we could see some sort of a winter weather advisory or winter storm watch if the models continue to trend as they have been. If we take a look at the radar, you can see the rain showers coming in this morning. A couple days ago, looked like we'd pick up 1 to 2 inches of rain, but that storm was much stronger, so it tracked further west. And now we're going to get mainly precipitation out ahead of the cold front. But this is a pretty slow mover, so although there's not a large band of rain, we do expect many areas to pick up between a quarter to as much as a half inch of rain. There was some rain last night across Newaygo, picked up 11 hundredths of an inch, around 2 hundredths over at Middleton. But mainly just sprinkles here in the Breckenridge area and across other areas. If we take a look at the forecast over the next 72 hours, this main rain event looks like about a quarter to a half inch. Again, the heaviest rains off to the west. And if we look at some of the projected snows from some of the different models, the Canadian goes bonkers and would give much of the MAC area 6 to 10 inches of snow, with all areas across the MAC picking up at least 2 inches of snow. So this would be a very significant winter storm if this were to occur. In fact, some of these brighter areas would be closer to 10, 12, and even 14 inches. Again, I think that's kind of an outlier, but all the models are putting down snow. The European is pretty aggressive. Here's the GFS across the Midwest. It would show areas like Middleton, Breckenridge, Jordan, Newaygo picking up 4 or more inches, with 2 inches down around the Lansing, Southwest Lower Michigan, and around 2 inches over in the Thumb area, with about an inch down in Southeast Lower Michigan. And if we zoom in on that, you can see some of the individual totals around. Again, you can see around 4 inches across the Saginaw Valley, 3 to 4 inches, and heavier snows a little farther north. The European we can't show, but it has a 6-inch line from around Grand Rapids to Saginaw, and about 2 to 4 inches across the area just to the south of there, down towards Lansing and Flint. So a pretty significant potential storm heading for this weekend. And now if we go to our winter outlook, here is a weather page that we have on our site. This is for Breckenridge. I wish I could track all the snow at the different locations, but this is for Breckenridge, and I keep track of this every year, including the average snowfall amounts, how we're doing compared to each average monthly snowfall and the seasonal snow totals. You can see I have that in bar charts. Every day I measure snow at 7 a.m., and I do the snow depth as well. So if you get snow Tuesday afternoon and you get 4 inches, it'll actually be recorded 7 a.m. on Monday, or excuse me, or rather on Wednesday. But this is a page you can go to, and if you're interested in doing rain and snow, you can join for free Kokoros network, and all you need is a rain gauge, and in the winter just do your snow measurements, and they have training videos there as well. If we go to the next slide here, hopefully, okay, this is the forecasted sea surface temperatures, and you can clearly see an El Nino, but this is nothing like the 1997 El Nino. And there are a couple of main differences. You can see the forecasted temperatures are further out into the Pacific and not near the South American coastline. That's a little bit cooler of signature, as is the warm waters near Baja California and the Gulf of Alaska across the west coast, which promotes more in the way of ridging out west, troughing in the east. So there are some cold signals to this winter that is not your typical El Nino. And if we go to the next slide, you can see we can compare the 2 years. You can see November 1997, all the very warmest of the waters near the shore over towards South America, and it gets less in the degree of warmth as you head out into the Pacific. Where this year, actually, this warmest water has now drifted. This was taken in July, but the newest water temperatures are much farther west now, and it's actually cooling near South America. And again, that becomes a cold signal. And notice the big difference with cooler waters tucked up near the west coast of the United States back in 1997, which would promote troughing across the west, ridging across the center part of the nation, which would then deflect that jet to the north and then away from the U.S., keeping the coldest air bottled up well in Canada. And you can see all the very warm water here, late summer, not quite as much now, but still certainly warm waters across the Gulf of Alaska down towards Baja, and that promotes ridging in the west, troughing in the east. So again, it's definitely an El Nino. Overall, I would lean towards a little bit milder than normal, but not, this big, very, very warm winter that some are talking about. And if we look at the next slide, you can see this again. These are the weekly surface temperatures, and you can see we're kind of in a Modoki type pattern where the warmest waters, especially what you look at is the differential between where the waters are warm and across the eastern part in the INSO 1-2 versus the 3-4. You can see I think the latest was about a 1 degree Celsius difference between the water differential, and that of course makes a big difference here as that warm water continues to build and move to the west. If we look at the next slide, you can see this is NOAA's forecast. This is from last month, and you can see much warmer than normal across much of the northwestern U.S. and across the upper Great Lakes, with the coolest weather temperatures confined to the Gulf, mainly due to extensive cloud cover and more in the way of precipitation events. And if we look at the next slide, this would be for the precipitation amount. And again, don't have a lot of problem with above normal all across the south, but I think especially from the Four Corners into the mid-Atlantic, I don't think there's going to be quite as dry as some of this picture is. I think we'll probably be a little drier as far as precipitation, not necessarily snowfall. And I'll tell you about that in just a second. If we look at Weather Bell, this was their updated forecast this fall for the winter. And I believe, yeah, this was done on August 27th. And you can see they're a little bit colder, quite a bit farther north. In fact, their spring outlook, which they even admit now probably may end up turning out being closer as the pattern and the models continue to trend colder and colder. And we look for that cold temperatures versus a warmer. If you see the upper blocking ridge across Hudson Bay to the east, that usually spells a lot of warmth across the eastern U.S. But Weather Bell's outlook is for that high, the ridging to be much farther back to the northwest and allowing a lot of storminess across underneath that, and cooler temperatures across the south, and a more stormy outlook as well. And you can see their precipitation where their snowfall amounts. And this is going to be from the Four Corners all the way in through traditional areas that don't get as much snow. But then again, you're only talking some places normal snowfall of 10 or 15 inches for the year. They can see 20, 25 inches. But again, very snowy, I think, across portions of the southern Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley, back across the southwest. There could be a lot of snow out there. And if we look at the next slide, you can see the Brazilian model. It's kind of interesting. It shows most of the precipitation events in Chicago being all in the form of snow, which would be green. And so it looks like a pretty cold forecast off the Brazilian model for the Great Lakes. And finally, my outlook, based on an El Nino year, which inherently would mean warmer and drier, there are enough caveats that I think that we're going to have temperatures near to above normal, and I think precipitation amounts will be near to below normal. However, I think snowfall amounts will be near to above normal. Our normal snowfall is 40 inches here in Breckenridge. I think 38 to 45 inches of snow is my forecast, and I think that's based on we're going to have a lot of cold air across the eastern portion and the central portion of Canada versus the western and the central portions of Canada. I don't expect a lot of major Arctic Siberian outbreaks for the Great Lakes this winter, but we're going to have a very, very cold, persistent eastern Canada. So when storms come out of the southwest from Texas, Oklahoma, and move towards the Great Lakes, this year, a lot of those might normally stay a little farther south, and I think that will be the case, but I think we have the chance for one or two what I would call major or mega storms that could affect the Great Lakes with heavy snow, and that could bring those totals a little above normal. And then many of the other precipitation events through the summer or through the winter may very likely stay south into the Ohio Valley and point south. So it'll be interesting to see. Again, a little bit warmer, a little bit drier than normal, but snowfall, I think, near to maybe a little above normal. Again, thanks to maybe one or two significant storms. Thanks for stopping by and have a great day, and 73s to all.